Game 7 took place in 2018, and I am playing a female player, very strong player, who's about 1862. I was about 1835 or so. This is the last round of the Washington State Championships. If she wins this game, she could very well win the tournament. So let's see what happens. I'm white, and let's begin. So right away, I'm going to start off with my signature E4 move. She plays the Sicilian. And I play D3 here. It's a King's Indian attack. This is a non-traditional approach to the Sicilian. And the reason I was doing this is because I'm sure she's very booked up, and I just wanted to avoid the main lines of any attacking Sicilian preparation that she has. So I'm just trying to bypass this. So knight c6. I play an early g3 here. I can do knight f3, knight c3, a lot of good moves, f4 even. But I just play g3, slowly developing my pieces. She does d6, which is good, getting rid of the opening the diagonal and securing the c5 pawn, just normal stuff. Bishop g2. Now you're probably wondering, why am I going to play bishop g2? Doesn't this look kind of strange? I'm kind of biting on a bad pawn here. Yeah, but the point is, at some point I'm going to play f4 and maybe c3 and d4 and break open the position if I can, but not yet. This is just all preliminary. So g6, she's going to take the diagonal as well, right? With the idea of, bishop here and getting on this long diagonal. And now I play f4. Again, not a traditional approach to this. This is some research I had done on my own. I was looking at some games from Nigel Davies, who's a grandmaster in the UK. And you're probably saying, well, wait a minute. I thought you said don't study openings. And fair enough. I think I just wanted to get a general feel for how to play this. I didn't obsess about the openings. I did a lot of tactical training for this game more than ever, and you'll see how that pays off later. But I'm just trying to get a position that looks unfamiliar to her, familiar to me, and from there on we'll just mix it up. Okay, so bishop g7, normal. I play the strange looking or interesting knight h3. Now you're probably going to ask what that's about. Well, the main reason is I want to keep this diagonal open from my bishop if possible. And I also may want to have options of playing knight f2, hitting this square here later on in the game. It's unorthodox, but interesting. Okay, she plays e6. Not too bad. I think knight f6 is a better move, or e5 is more aggressive, challenging things a little bit. But, even h5 looks kind of interesting as well, right? Starting to push this pawn down and creating pressure where I have put sort of a strange place for my knight. But she plays e6, I play c3, and this is just to blunt this diagonal, right? To stop it so this pawn is not as attacked, and I can start developing my other pieces like my knight and my bishop. Okay, so knight g e7. It's good. Maybe b5 is a little better, or b6 to fianchetto the bishop to counter my fianchetto. It's not right or wrong. It's fine. Just a move. She's probably going to prepare f5 at some point. Maybe it's hard to say. It's too early to know what's going to happen. So then I just castle. She castles. And now I play another unusual move, not traditional. And this is knight a3. And now I know you're saying, gee, what is up with these knights? You got a knight on a3, you got a knight on h3. What is the purpose of this? Well, they're not going to stay there very long. This is actually not the end of the world for white. Knight a3 makes more sense than knight h3 because the idea is I'm going to play knight c2 so I can support a d4 push. And when she starts playing these pawns, I can kind of get out of the way of that and have some defense. So it's not a crazy move. Not as crazy as knight h3, but it's okay. But I do think that even after this move, black is a little better because of the kind of disorganization of my pieces. Okay, so she plays h6, which is really passive. I think something like I mentioned before, like rook b8 makes sense. Preparing to push b5. That's kind of a move I would consider, but that's me. So she plays h6. Again, I think she's worried about this knight jumping into this square here. I don't think that's much of a concern, but she's just being very careful. And she might want to play f5, I guess, and prevent me from landing on that. So h6. Okay, so now I'm starting to develop my pieces as I should. So bishop e3 is a normal move. Knight c2, again, as I mentioned, is an okay move. As is knight f2. Either one of those is probably reasonable to start bearing down on the center more, right? These knights attack squares that are not critical. I want to go here to attack multiple squares, right? Not just one or two. So I play bishop e3. She plays f5, kind of aggressive. It's not a bad move, but I think b5 is more in the spirit of the game. And why is that? Well, on b5, this is kind of more what this is what this bishop is doing here, right? It's bearing down on the center. Um, I don't know. It just seems like this is more natural with the rook and the queen to help out. But hey, this is just her feeling was, she wanted to break on f5, and it's not that terrible. But this is a weakie here. These pawns here are starting to look a little weak. So I feel I have a little advantage here, very small, of course, but it's interesting. All right, so I play queen d2, just trying to lift the queen, get the rooks talking together so they can now have movement in the back rank wherever they need to go. They're free to move wherever. Now she plays rook b8. So she's a little slower in getting to the point here, but this is I think a good approach to start pressuring with b5. That would be a good idea here. And also, another prophylactic, once the center opens one way or the other, you don't want to be in the middle of this diagonal. So getting off the diagonal makes some good sense here. Now I play, after a long think here, rook a d1. I think that's a good move. Again, just bearing down in the center. I'm going to, again, probably do this perhaps and push and have a really nice command in the center if she allows that. Other moves, again, I'm not going to go into deep analysis. This is an amateur game, not a grandmaster level competition, but I could have probably also done something like rook fe1, because this f file isn't really going to be open. The e file is, so I need to be prepared for that. Sorry for all the arrows. All right, so rook a1 makes sense, and again, that's my idea. Knight c2 maybe, and so on. Now she plays b5. Okay, this is now making sense. So she's starting to expand and put pressure. So now I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have a5 soon. She's going to play something like this. Then she'll play b4 and start really coming in on my squares. So what should I do here? And I said, I'm going to mix it up here. So I decided to play, I'm going to say, good prophylactic move here. I play knight to c2. Again, preparing this d4 idea. And she plays a really good move here. She plays queen a5, and I think she has a, the idea is, again, all her pieces are united here. They're on this. The bishop helps to support. So this is all good stuff here. You can see the coordination. Now this piece, the bishop on c8, the rook on f8 are not participating, as is this knight, but still things are looking okay for her. I think I probably have a very small edge here, but nothing worth mentioning. It's probably just equal. Okay, so now I knight c2, I try to mix it up a little bit to kind of get pressure to the center. Now I'm thinking to myself, I got to do something here disruptive. So I play e5. You're probably saying, why do I want to play e5? Well, I'm going to try, whether she pushes or she takes, I want to take this pawn here. That's the purpose of that move. I'm hoping that might happen. Better move, tactically speaking, b4 is very strong. I mean, it's just equal, but it's more direct in terms of what the position probably calls for, and takes. And she takes here. Obviously, I have moves like e5, and this queen is becoming trapped very quickly, and the pawns are very, very weak. I've played out a little bit. Queen d5, rook a1, queen b3. And look how the pressure. Look how she's getting. And this is just a mess. Queen c3, takes. I'll go through a very little bit of this, and the piece is hanging. So it's just very ugly. So she didn't want to get into that, and that makes sense. Just looks scary to take that pawn anyway. So e5. She did take it, which is not recommended, and I just took the c5 pawn. That was part of my idea, right? And now this is a pretty good situation here. I got the diagonal here. I can stop this pawn from coming forward. It's looking okay. I think I have more of an advantage than I had before. Okay, so she sees the pin here and moves to rook e8 to get out of that. I think probably dropping back to c7 is a better idea, like queen c7. And why is that? Well, because after rook e8, I have bishop d6. I didn't play that though, but that will be a very good move. That wins at least a pawn, and I might have a really strong advantage at that point. But I didn't. I got afraid of my pawns, right? This is what amateur players are always doing, and I'm including myself in that. I play a3, which is slow. Yes, it stops b4. It's not wrong, but bishop d6 is the better move. It has more initiative. It's actually threatening something, and yeah, I think it's just slow, objectively. So now she drops back to c7, and then again, that threat is now gone of bishop d6, either way. All right, well, now I'm kind of going for small potatoes here. There's lots of things I can try for here. There's a bunch of moves. Probably a move like b4 is the smartest. Just lock everything down, stop this nonsense from going on here with these pawns, freeze them in their tracks. That's kind of what I should be doing. But instead, I kind of going again for small potatoes. I play queen f2, which I'm trying to win this pawn. Okay, is it really worth it? Losing that bishop for a pawn? Is that, probably not a smart idea. And the game is just dead equal here, I think. So she says she should just play a5 here or something and just continue to push and break along the b file. But she doesn't. She takes on f4. I thought long and hard here. I think knight f4 looks very normal because you're hitting these weakies, right? Here and here. But actually, gf4 is also very strong too, even though it doesn't quite look that way. It's just probably equal. But the reason is I want to stop the pushing of these pawns to liberate themselves. If this e pawn pushes itself, it liberates the bishop. And anyway, it's better to have an f pawn there than having a knight on it. So I do play knight f4, and now again hitting the weakies. They're not under immediate attack, but they're kind of tied down. But then look what she can do. e5, right? This is what I was just talking about. She now opens up the c8 bishop, and I got to retreat. So I play back to back to h3 would be a better move, but I go forward. I say, okay, you know what? I'm going to try and trade off, get my pieces active. She takes and I take, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't look all that bad now. I got these nice bishops, on the diagonals. This looks okay. And now she can obviously play a move like a bishop e6 to prevent, but I still feel really good here. So she just plays king h7, get out of the way, and that's probably not a bad idea. Bishop e6 I think is smarter. Why can it let me have an uncontested diagonal? be6 makes a lot of sense, but all right, king h7, second best, but it's okay. And at this point, I should prepare for something like bishop e6 and probably retreat the bishop somewhere, but I don't. I play knight b4. And again, the purpose of that is I felt this was a good knight. Is it a bad move? No. But it's very passive. It's just asking to trade and chop pieces off the board. Where is my strength here? If you had to play a good move here, pause the video. What would you want to play here? I think a good move here should be something like d4. It's kind of in the spirit of the position. I don't know what the computer would say. Maybe it would hate it. It's probably just equal or something. But I felt that's more in the spirit of the position. Maybe retreating the bishop back. Anyway, I don't think knight b4 is bad, but it just is. It's almost like offering to smoke the peace pipe pretty early here. So knight b4, she takes, and I'm like, okay, this isn't all that bad. A b4, and what do I have? Well, I have an open a file for myself if I want it, right? The rooks could come to the a file. It's not bad. This bishop is really well seated, and yeah, she could bring this bishop back and try and trade it, but that takes some time. I'm on this pawn. These two pieces here are on the a7 pawn, so it's probably just equal, but I feel like my position is okay, not terrible. Okay, so then she plays bishop e7. Not a shocker, right? She's wanting to exchange, and I take. She takes with the rook. Um, it's probably fine to take with the rook to lift because it protects the a pawn at the same time, so that makes some sense. But this rook is a little awkward, I think. It doesn't have a lot of scope, and again, I think the game is just equal, but it's a little odd. And now I come up with this idea. I'm like, you know what? This g6 pawn looks really weak. If I can play like h4, h5 and disrupt it, then this queen can take on the f5 pawn check, and I might have a really good game here, particularly with my bishop on here, and things look kind of interesting. So I play h4, not understanding that she has a very simple response, h5. And now that move looks pretty stupid. Right now, I have weakened pawns here. I have a backward pawn on g3. So just one of these things that happens in a game. You have a lapse, and it's just equal. But it's probably very drawish at this point, to be very honest. The pieces are rather symmetrical, same amount of material. I have a little more activity, but nothing to really go crazy on. And the position can be broken open by either of us. So it looks very drawish right here. Maybe I call it dynamically equal. All right, so I say I'll take the file. Whoops, sorry. So I say, okay, I'll take the file. Rook A1. And let's start pressuring this pawn. I really don't know what else to do here, right? Is there another move? What do you guys think? I mean, D4 is a move for sure, opening the center, but I figured, look, why do I want to even do that right now? Let's put some pressure. So I said Rook A1. Okay. So after a think, she goes Rook D8. I mean, that's a good move. I mean, it's obvious it's hitting a weakie, right? Other moves for her, it's not really anything enormously complicated. Maybe Queen F7, maybe a Rook lift to here, um, to then play Queen. It's hard to say. It's not. I don't think there's any great move for Black here. Queen F7 seems reasonable, kind of waiting things out, getting on the long diagonal. It's almost like you want an extra bishop here, right? And just to see what happens. Reasonable. But instead, it's just Rook D8 hitting the weak pawn here on D3. And I thought a long time about this. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, what do I want to do here? And then I saw a combination. And this comes from tactics training, right? Just the vision of the board, what this is going to look like. I realized again that this G6 pawn is very weak. If she took on D3, technically speaking, these are on the same diagonals as the king. Just FYI, it looks interesting. So I said to myself, I'm going to play a move like Rook A6. I'm going to let the pawn hang. And the reason is, if she gobbles this pawn too quickly, I'm going to take on G6. If she takes with the king, I'll take queen check, picking up the rook. Right? Nothing really that fancy, but just interesting either way. So she goes for it. She takes the pawn. Rook takes D3. And I instantly played Rook G6. I didn't even wait for her to write down her score. I instantly took it. And I think she got very frazzled here, very rattled, thinking there was some major combination here. And the reality is there isn't. But exact play is required here. You've got to play a move probably like Queen F7 to defend and capture the rook. It's very difficult. So if Queen F7 is really the move, then Rook G5, Bishop H6. These are hard moves to find, right? In fairness, but instead she takes. She doesn't. She doesn't take the rook. She plays F4 because she sees the combination and she takes it. So let's just see here. Takes, and this is crushing. Queen F5, and it's game over. King H6. Queen D3, and I'm all over this. I mean, I got all kinds of problems happening here with Queen E3 check coming, and it's time to resign. So F4 is not really the best fight here. Again, Queen F7 is, but that's a computer analysis that's really easy to look at. So F4, I figure she takes with on G3. I can take with the rook, and her king is very exposed. So I just calmly play Rook G5. Hitting this pawn. and awaiting events. Another good move actually would be queen c2. Someone pointed this out to me after the game, and that's probably a better move because I'm on the diagonal and I take with check. If she captures, it's a lot of good stuff going on there. So anyway, rook takes g6, f4, question mark. I calmly just play rook g5. And now she plays, again, another weird move here, bishop h6, just trying to evict this rook, and I get it. But this is a big blunder. She's already worse. Probably a move like queen c6 is okay. Trying to hold down the fort. And why is queen c6 a move? Well, on rook takes h5, king g8, there's some, and rook g5, I can get over, rook f7, and I'm covering covering diagonals, covering key squares for the pieces. Although white is still better, but bishop h6 is problems. And now I have a very strong move, queen e2. Why is that good? Well, a couple of reasons. Obviously, I'm hitting the rook, which is the most obvious reason. I'm hitting this pawn. I'm also threatening check, among other things. So that's a very strong move. Queen c2 is actually also good, but queen e2 is even stronger because it has much more possibilities. All right, so queen d7, defending the rook, but she's missing a key piece here. Can you see it? Queen e4. And just go back a second. If you're wondering, well, on bishop h6, queen e2, can't she just take? Isn't she up a rook? No, because I take with check. Moves, wherever. And now I'm up a full piece, and it's game over again. All right, so queen e2, very strong, threatening check. She goes queen d7, protecting. I hit her with check. And now this is kind of dangerous because she goes king h8. Now I get a free. This is now winning. Now queen takes e5 check, and the house is coming down here very quickly. She plays king h8, which is a try. I go back to queen e4 check, which is a free tempo on the king. She goes back to g8. Taking on f4 is probably fine. Queen takes e4, but or queen e5. I play a less than strong move. It still works. I play rook g6, threatening to take on h6. So she pulls the rook into action here and hits me with check. So then I take, she takes back. And once again, we got big problems here. So I play, can you see the move here? You're probably thinking bishop d4, and that's actually what I played as winning. Even stronger move is queen g6. Hard to find. This is lights out. Hitting the bishop, threatening all kinds of stuff with queen h5, and just, myriad of and then bishop d4 later, and it's just really ugly. And then I can, take with check. It gets to be very ugly. I didn't play that. I just kind of wanted to play solid bishop check. She plays the mistake. She plays king g8, but she doesn't. She plays bishop g7, missing mate in 1. Rook f8 mate. So anyway, a pretty tough, balanced game throughout. This game was decided on a tactic and something that she didn't see. I think she got a little nervous with my rook g6 idea and didn't realize that she could have played through it, and that's what allowed me to win the game. So I think a good game, and hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something from it. I think that one of the keys you have to remember here is even in drawn looking games, there are always tactics. So always try and threaten something. You might be surprised. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.